Hello, everyone. Today I want to talk about an article that was in the Dallas Morning News last week, written by Richard Parker. The title of it is First Casualties of Trump's Trade War Are Texas Cattle Ranchers, which is really interesting because I didn't know much about this at all. I don't know much about the ranching industry. But what this opinion piece it's an opinion piece in the Dallas Morning News, goes into is how it'll affect not just Texas cattle ranchers, and not just the state of Texas, but also the whole supply chain around the cattle industry, grains, rail. And not even just those industries, but like the automotive industry in Detroit, because as I've talked about, as soon as Trump threatened, days after getting inaugurated, the 20% tax on Mexican products to pay for the wall, the president of Mexico said, okay, withdrew his trip to come visit Trump, and has threatened to do the same thing. He's also threatened to be a trade war with China. So what has been happening in Texas since they've finally gotten over, they had a years-long drought, and that what was having to happen was the cattle ranchers were having to truck in more grass from the coastal regions of Texas, which was upping their costs. So now that's, their drought has gone away or subsided, if you will, they don't have that cost, but now this is going to increase their costs. And cattle ranchers, according to this article, have a very thin margin of profit, and so any sort of fluctuation with this can drastically affect them. One of the things that happened when Trump said this, the threat of a trade war made cattle futures slide, because I don't know much about the futures market, but I know that part of it is all of the things that are the offshoot industries of a specific industry, like grain and stuff, all that. So the grain went down, and then what that did when and then the sinking of the Trans-Pacific Partnership, the TPP, which many Trump supporters were like, yeah, get rid of it. Cattle ranchers apparently don't want that to go away because that opened up the Japanese market. So cattle ranchers in the state, specifically Texas, are shipping more of their beef around the world. As America is eating less of it, they're shipping it to countries like Japan. And the TPP, what that did, I didn't know this, but so the Japanese tariffs were as high as about 38.5%, and they have since come down to about 9%. So the cattle ranchers were like, oh, this is an opportunity for us. But if we get rid of the TPP, then they won't be able to sell in the Japanese market, and a country like Australia might be able to take advantage of that. So again, Trump hurting his own constituents. What this also hurts is beef producers from Nebraska, the Dakotas, grain from Kansas, Iowa, tomatoes from California and Florida, cars from Michigan. Those are all the other states that are going to be affected by this. So like the state of California where I live in, we grow a lot of produce and ship a fair amount of that down into Mexico. Well, they're going to raise the prices on it, so people aren't going to buy it down there. And then any products we get from Mexico are obviously going to cost more. What also this has affected, why it has affected the futures market, is the uncertainty of what is going to actually happen. Trump has threatened this, and it affected the markets, and now what is going to happen? And the quote in here from Richard Parker is, no state in the country has more exposure to economic effect in each scenario than Texas does. Texas has the largest exporters of all 50 states, $280 billion in exports. Wow. To Mexico, Canada, Brazil, and China. The busiest ports are Laredo, El Paso, Houston, and Galveston. I didn't know this. More Texans work in the trade than in oil or gas or ranching. 500,000 workers in Texas work for foreign companies. So a trade war, and again, a lot of so all those Texas ports that they're talking about, it's not just incoming, it's shipping out a lot of products to, as they just listed, Mexico, Canada, China. If we're in a trade war with Mexico and China, well, then that's really going to hurt the American worker. It's really going to hurt the state of Texas. So the Citigroup, gets interesting, warned investors of about 5 companies that have exposure to Mexico if this trade war happens. Warned investors, these 5 companies. And one of them was a train company out of Kansas. Of course, Citigroup got their exposure out of it. I mean, they pulled their money out so they wouldn't lose money, but they warned their investors and then bailed. So this is the kind of stuff that, again, it goes, I've talked about this time and time again, the simplicity, the oversimplicity of these Trump, we'll build a wall, we'll tax, like this, the world is, the geopolitical landscape of America and its relationship to the rest of the world is so complex, and it is a house of cards. And you do one of these things and it screws up everybody. It screws up all the states. It's like, it's unbelievable. And you know, I didn't know that the state of Texas had this kind of $280 billion in exports, that state is doing that well. That's wonderful. And now it's going to get screwed over if this trade war happens. There was already another article I read that Mexico, the people there are so offended by Trump and this wall and everything that they're having a whole Hencho a Mexico, which is made in Mexico. So it's all like, buy local, buy Mexican products, don't buy American products. People are not shopping at like Starbucks and McDonald's and American companies like this. Trump, all he's doing is hurting the American worker. He is not helping the American worker. He's not helping for the many of the people that actually voted for him. Oh boy. Pay attention, guys, and if you have more information like this, like I just got this article sent to me in the Dallas Morning News, how any of this stuff affects you locally and how it affects the rest of us here in America and around the world. Let me know. Like it, subscribe, share, and send your comments below. I've been trying to put links to these articles in the show notes below this, but I post them and then so I'm trying to do more of that. I'll try to post more of these articles in the show notes. But of course, feel free to post any articles in the comments section that you want me to talk about or anything like that. I appreciate it. All right, guys, we'll talk soon.